Hello, beautiful beings. Normally I record a cute little intro on camera. I didn't feel like being on camera, so here we are, audio only. Okay, it is what it is. This conversation is going to be so good. I don't even know how we managed to touch on so many topics in under an hour, but this conversation is juicy. So back in December, I connected with Gabriella, also known as Gaia of Sacred Origins. Let me tell you, she is a wise, grounded, enchanting witch. And we explored some profound and thought-provoking topics, from healing witch wounds to decolonizing witchcraft and holistic healing. We unravel the complex tapestry of religion and witchcraft, navigating the delicate balance, between tradition and innovation. Gabriella fiercely guides us through the intricacies of reclaiming ancient wisdom and embracing the power of the unseen, as well as insights on reconnecting with and honoring the womb, inviting us to really explore the sacred depths of the power of the feminine and intuition. We also shine light on the challenges of navigating family dynamics as a witch and the enduring struggle against the patriarchal forces that still to this day seek to suppress and silence feminine wisdom. So, are you even ready for this conversation? Are you ready to join us as we confront the shadows of the past and illuminate the path towards a future where magic, healing, and empowerment is accessible to all? Are you ready? Are you freaking ready? Okay, let's let the magic unfold. Okay, here is Gabriella of Sacred Origins on Connected in the Den. Okay, so look, we cannot be classy all of the time. It's exhausting. In this episode of Connected in the Den, we do have some adult language. So if you have little ones around, you might want to grab your headphones. Gabriella, it is such an honor and such a joy to connect with your energy. You have such a peacefulness to you. Which I really am just receiving it. I'm like, this is nice. I love it.
I'm so glad that that's what comes across. Because there's actually a lot of chaos.
I love it. Well, you're very good at finding your center and grounding down when you need to. So I love that. I appreciate you so much. You are such a powerful, multidimensional witch is what comes across for me from your posts and what you share, and your connection to the earth, which I love seeing so much. And I feel like your portal is essentially a safe space for women to reclaim our sacred essence, to awaken the goddess within and the power that holds. And I just thank you for all that you do and all that you share, because aside from just being who we are as witches, I think sometimes it can be a little difficult for us to show up in a public capacity. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I just appreciate what you share so much. And I'm just excited to talk with you. So you are I hope I'm saying this right, which I'm excited that you're going to teach me in just a sec, a Dianic Witch?
Yes.
So I would first like to hear just what a witch means to you, your perspective on that. And then I would just love to know what it means to be a Dianic Witch and a little bit about your lineage as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe a witch is a woman who's deeply aware of her connection with all of life and with nature, and acts as a sort of vessel or a channel for natural powers, for the mysteries, for the muses, for the goddess.
Yes.
And she's acutely aware of her ability to shape reality to her desires, to her will, to her intentions, and uses her beauty, her gifts, her healing, her love, her touch, her voice as vehicles of healing. And everything that I strive in my life, for everything that I do to bring medicine to the people around me, to be an expression of the deep connection that I feel with life. And then a Dianic Witch is specifically a practitioner of feminist Wicca. And
Okay.
Dianic Wicca is a feminist branch of witchcraft that blends ecofeminism, goddess religion, goddess reclamation with Wicca and earth magic, earth religion. And Zuzana Budapest is called the mother of Dianic Wicca or feminist Wicca. And she's still alive and well. She's still with us today. And I've had the pleasure of interacting with her here and there. And Dianic Wicca is specifically devoted to the goddess Diana. And she's the goddess of witches, goddess of womanhood, the protector of women. Legend says that she was lesbian / a virgin, meaning that she's just whole unto herself. She's not married. She's not tied down to one person, one thing. And she protects motherhood, womanhood, childbirth, childbearing, pregnancy. And then she's also the wild huntress. So she is usually surrounded with her hunting dogs, her wild dogs. Diana is a really powerful goddess. There were ancient temples made in devotion to her in the past. But she's just one face of the goddess. There's so many different faces to the great mother goddess and all her many forms. And I came to the goddess path through women, through the women around me, through my exposure to different experiences, different cultures, my deep fascination with world religions and spirituality and feminism and birth, all kind of melded into, this beautiful path, bringing me back home to the goddess.
I love it.
And it was a dear friend of mine who reminded me, like, you have pagan ancestry, you have indigenous ancestry back in Europe, and there is a well-worn path for you to follow if that's what you want to go back to. So that brought me back to neo-paganism, the Wheel of the Year, to Wicca. And my, flavor of magic is a blending of a bunch of different things that I've experienced in my life, but it's so deeply rooted back to my ancestral homelands of England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Denmark. I have a lot of Nordic tradition and ancestry. And there's a lot of really rich pagan earth magic and lineage and traditions and customs that we've just kind of been divorced from as European ancestored people here in the New World, here in Turtle Island. We had to cut off from our past to then assimilate and to survive this new culture. And I'm so, so deeply passionate about helping all people reconnect back to what we used to do in Europe, and I feel like that's a really huge part of taking responsibility and ownership for colonization and undoing that harm within ourselves first. Is like, we have to take pride and ownership and come back to and remember who we used to be before we came here.
Yes.
And there's a rise and a big surge of kind of a renaissance of European folk traditions coming back with the rise of internet, the consciousness expanding in all the different ways. And it's really exciting. And I keep saying the word pagan. I want to reiterate what that means.
Yes,
Pagan means people of the land. And it was a word used by Christian conversion to describe the earth worshiping, agricultural, rural people of the country. The people who were farmers and had been tending and stewarding the land back, generations. And I reclaim the word pagan to mean earth worship. That's really just fundamentally what it is. It's just nature worship. And it's actually a really big umbrella word to describe anything and anyone that doesn't identify with the monotheistic Abrahamic religions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. So if you don't identify with those three and you feel an affinity towards nature, towards polytheism, towards nature worship, then you could be identified as pagan. So yeah, that's a bit
I
about
love
my
that.
history and about my lineage.
I
Yeah.
love that. So like history lessons for me too, because so I am mixed. My practice predominantly is rooted in African spirituality.
Beautiful.
But I do have, my mother is Scottish. So I'm just
Beautiful.
starting to uncover, I had to do a little bit of healing work there, you
Yeah.
know, like colonial healing work and stuff, decolonizing
Absolutely.
and stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's now like just receiving what you're saying. I'm like, I'm just sort of laughing at spirits, like how they've aligned me to you, and I'm learning through you. So I just really appreciate, you know, all the knowledge that you're dropping. And I do love too, some of what you speak on is, you do really talk about embracing all witches and regardless of culture and lineage and history, and more of this sort of decolonial approach,
Yeah.
which I appreciate so much, because there is obviously some differences from, I find, European witchcraft versus African spirituality, and the brutal treatment of a lot of the women in Africa. I believe Ghana just passed in the summer a law against criminalizes accusations against women in witchcraft, but the witch hunts, the witch murders are still so strong today. So
yeah,
I am really curious, like have you always identified as a witch? Like, do you know much about like the lineage and history from your own family? How have you been treated as a witch, like growing up or present day?
I definitely didn't always identify as a witch. I didn't really even know what that was. I think growing up in, you know, conventional modern life, we're kind of just shown that, you know, God is just this thing in this tiny little box, and spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. But I always found my deepest peace and solace in nature and in the creative powers moving through my body, which I believe come from nature. And it wasn't until my adolescent years when I started exploring and experimenting with plant medicines where the boundaries started dissolving and I really started questioning things. And I came out and said, I don't identify as Christian or Catholic, Mom. And, you know, sorry to disappoint you, but I just don't believe in this stuff.
Yeah.
But I had always felt a deep connection to spirit, to the divine, but it was through my own way. And, you know, as a child, I remember just like going off into nature and communing with the whispers of spirits and just feeling the presence of magic, feeling the presence of the alive consciousness that is in all things, and feeling the deep urge to commune and unite with these forces. And I didn't have any way of explaining it. But, you know, my entire childhood, I, you know, unconsciously was being shaped and molded to set me up on the path towards magic, towards the return to my magic. And my parents didn't know this at the time, but the things they shared with me, the music, the movies they showed me, it was all permission slips giving me little breadcrumbs to follow a path back to my magic. And now I subscribe to a paradigm and a worldview that says that not only do these feelings shape my reality, change life all around me, but that magic is real and that I can trust this magic. And now, as I'm deepening into my practice and I've become a mother, I'm really dropping into the truth that I am the magic, I am the medicine, that we don't need any special tools or rituals. And obviously, it's beautiful and a huge homecoming and reclamation to refer back to our lineage practices, our traditions, to learn about our ancestors and what they did. But really, like, what's most valuable and most potent is our true authentic connection with the mystery, with the divine, however shape that looks. So it's been a journey of really me finding the courage to embrace my magic, to express it, to follow this really alternative, radical path. I didn't, really subscribe to a lot of what my family expected of me. I'm the black sheep. I had to break a lot of rules and disappoint a lot of people in order to find who I truly am. And luckily, I felt safe enough to do that. There's a lot of, the reality of being a witch, of being a magical person, of being a wise person, of being connected to the land in any capacity is a threat. And means that you are going to be, at some level, fall prey to the abusive, oppressive forces that govern our world and that have shaped our world to be what it is today. And I've had to experience a very small amount of persecution relative to what other people experience this day and age. Fortunately, I grew up in a family where, even though I was weird and, they kind of judged me, but like, they weren't going to disown me. They weren't going to like kick me out of the family. There are some people who've experienced that, they grow up maybe in like a Mormon tradition, for example. And if you do not abide by that way of belief, you are just like cut off completely. So I'm very fortunate in that I never experienced that, and that my family, even though they're Catholic, we've come around full circle to like where we can actually make fun of it and just laugh about, what I do. They don't understand it, but it's just, they don't have a say anymore. They just don't have a say. And I'm just going to keep being weirder and weirder. So they just have to accept what it is that I am. And what were some of the other questions you asked?
Sorry, I know I asked so many like layered questions. It was really just, like how have you been treated? And like family and stuff like that.
I've been very lucky. I've been so very, very lucky to be in a rather progressive family. And that like, I gave birth at home alone, and I didn't have any interference, or like the fears or expectations of my family members didn't stop me from doing the things. And it just doesn't stop me, and it can't stop me anymore. And I'm in a marriage with a beautiful man who just loves everything that I am and has fostered and supported my evolution through so many different seasons of my life. And I'm surrounded by other women who also live the way that I live. It's just kind of the air that I breathe at this point. And I feel very fortunate to be on like the other side of things, where I can now be an inspiration and plant seeds of inspiration, of hope, of magic, and people who really want to live authentically and according to what feels true in their souls.
I love that.
I
love that. So I also come from a Catholic background as well.
Interesting. Scottish. Yeah.
Right. Well, actually, my grandmother was, oh my gosh, Protestant. So my mother was actually baptized Catholic as an adult.
Oh, wow.
But, and my father actually I come from a lineage of healers and psychics and seers. I didn't know any of that until I was well into my 30s, which is hilarious to me now. I feel like there was maybe some fear in like wanting to keep me as the good kind of Catholic girl, which I did learn things, I guess, from the religion, but I am in a way anti-religion, I guess. Like it's more like, the structures that surround it that I think are harmful, but
totally.
I still have like crazy respect for the stories of Jesus, Yeshua, and just curious what you think, because I feel like he was a wizard.
Yeah, that's what I say all the time.
Right?
He was a high wizard.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So have you had these conversations with your family? Like, what do they feel when you kind of open up that box? Because I feel like that's hit or miss with certain Catholics, right?
Sure. I haven't explicitly expressed my complete synopsis of what I think Jesus or Yeshua, what this being is.
Yes.
I have touched a little bit about Mary Magdalene with my mom, and like, hey mom, do you know where the rosary comes from? Do you know like that it comes from roses, and that the reason, you know, connecting the rose back to Mary Magdalene, everyone, she still kind of thought that Mary Magdalene was a whore. And I'm like, no, the church actually reframed her as a saint. Which is fascinating that I know that, but you don't know that.
Yeah.
And then what I like to do every Christmas is ask my Catholic family, do you know why we bring a tree in every year? Do you know why we, you know, celebrate these colors? Do you know why there's reindeer? Like, they don't know they just don't know. And I love just like dropping little seeds.
Right? Yeah.
Actually, like 80% of your traditions are paganism. So
yes. And this is what I've been learning and stuff too. And I actually just learned that the reindeers of Santa's sleigh were all women. They're female. They were all female reindeers, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to Odin. Odin had an 8-legged a reindeer as well that he would travel with.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I forget the reindeer's name. He has a name, but yeah, there's that. And then, I mean, the mushroom magic of winter solstice, the Amanita muscaria magic tradition there is so potent, so strong. That's why we hang the stockings on the fire. That's why we put the presents under the tree. Yeah.
It's crazy. Seeing the way, the control that organized religion can have on someone's psyche and on their consciousness. Right. And
some real strong magic there.
Yeah. Like I do, again, like I said, I do appreciate some of the teachings that I was, you know, received, but like, I feel like I always from a very early age was questioning everything and being like, there's gotta be more to this. And I don't really think that this is actually the way Jesus or God would want things to be. And I remember when I was one of the first years, I guess you could say, that had the choice to whether they wanted to do their confirmation. And I was one of the few students that was like, no, I don't want to confirm my, like, you know, it was it's such a weird thing to be pushed on for the youth, you know?
Yeah, it really is. You don't know anything at 12, 13 years old. Yeah. I was confirmed. I went through that whole process, even though I didn't align with it. And yeah.
So how do you approach now with your children? I'm curious, if you don't mind talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, so my daughter's 2. We kind of incorporate all the traditions, but she has been part of ceremony since she was born.
I love it.
And every time we're outside, I refer to the earth, the ocean, the rivers, the trees as mama. And now she calls them mama. And I think, you know, it's kind of hard to cut out the Santa mythology, but I mean, he's king of the elves. Like, what could be more pagan than that? So we're going to incorporate that. We're going to incorporate a bunch of different things when it comes to the holy days, but she knows about the Wheel of the Year, I'm assuming, and she will continue to grow in the Wheel of the Year. And then ultimately I'm just going to share with her, like, there's many different paths up the mountain to God, to the divine. There's no wrong path. However, I am going to kind of reinforce and just give her the history, the herstories, which is that Earth religion is the oldest and the most rooted path. And I would say it is the mountain itself.
Yes.
Upon which all other stories are built on.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm loving this conversation so much. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about one of your recent posts on Instagram, which I'm going to share all the links in the show notes. But for those, like, I just will share your Instagram, because for me, when I'm listening to a podcast, if I'm really vibing with a guest, I'm like, I want to know their socials like immediately. So it's sacred.origins is your Instagram. So one of your recent posts, let me find it. You spoke on the patriarchy not wanting us women to be rooted in our magic and our sexuality and our power. And you shared To control the people, they had to disconnect women from our sexual power and creative authority. Female sexuality is life-giving. It directly confronts and undermines all systems that exploit life. When women are deeply rooted in their female physiology, we are much less easy to control. Like, those are such magical words. So let's talk about this, because what I feel like there's been a very powerful but somewhat subtle awakening when it comes to women reclaiming our magic. So how can women reclaim their power, and what do you feel is needed for that journey? Like, I think it's a forever journey type thing, you know, like I'm still doing the healing work with that. So.
Absolutely. Well, I believe that deep inside the soul of every animal is the yearning for truth, for freedom, and for our authentic nature. And no matter how much effort there has been at trying to deny this force, it survives. This wild nature lives on, no matter how constraining the conditions might be. So I urge women and all people to really heed that voice, that whisper, that deep inner yearning for more, for the depths, for the wild woman, for the wildness, because we are animals. And I believe that the wild still lives on in us as long as we are walking upon the earth, drinking her waters, sustaining our life from nature. We are nature. And that all of the rather recent detours from our natural state of being are so recent that I believe that we're course correcting. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a few generations, right? It took many generations to forget the old ways, forget where we come from. So it's going to take a few generations to kind of make that return. And it's not going to be a mirror return. It's going to be something different.
Yeah.
But I urge people to listen to that voice, to that siren call that's in the soul that says, you know, follow that path, follow that scent. You know, goddess leaves her scent all over the place, and there's breadcrumbs everywhere if you really just listen and follow. And then for those wanting to reconnect with your womb, with your body, with your cycles, it's really a process of just unlearning and deprogramming and unveiling who your authentic feminine female nature is away from the projections of patriarchal culture. And even the word feminine, I have some issue with, because so much of what we conflate femininity with is what patriarchy has told us femininity is.
Yes.
And it varies from culture to culture. So it's not this one universal thing, whereas female is a universal experience. Obviously, there's variation within that, but for the most part, female means this one thing, whereas feminine means many different things depending on who you're asking and where you're going. So I speak to and refer to the feral female. And who is she? The feral female is a woman deeply embodied, deeply connected to herself, listens to her inner guidance, her intuition, and knows that she is a part of nature. She's just one of all the other creatures, one of all the other wild animals. And I mean, my path of reclamation was like growing out my body hair, just to stop the ritual of trying to hide and deny the fact that I am a wild animal. That's a big part. I invite women to question, you know, where does this urge come from to remove your hair? Where did you learn this from? Where does the urge come from to hide the fact that you're bleeding? Or to, you know, call your cycle a curse? Where did you learn this from? Like, it's really important to question these things, these assumptions that we've all been passed down by living in patriarchal culture, so that we can return to the authentic female, the authentic, the feral, the wild woman force. And she is full bodied. She has a hearty appetite. She has a deep curiosity. She has lots of creativity. She's deeply rooted in the creative, life-giving force that is everything that she does. And specifically, even more specifically than that, it's living by your cycle. So women, female creatures, we live in a totally different reality than those in male bodies do. Our hormones are so vastly different. We live in a 28-day cycle, whereas they live in a 24-hour hormonal cycle. So men, their lowest, or, they peak at about midday, and then they descend by the end of the day. And then the next day it starts all over again. And this has to do with gametes. So sperm, they're constantly being recycled and reborn like every day or so. And that's their hormonal cycle. And our entire society is built upon the male experience and that solar testosterone hormonal cycle. Females, the female experience, like I said, is the 28-day cycle. So there's a week, and this varies, of course, from body to body, but there's a week of rising, there's a week of peak ovulation, our summertime, then there's a week of descending, our autumn time, and then there's about a week of menstruation, which is our winter time, right? And we just, in our society, in our male-dominated society, do not accommodate or even acknowledge the female experience, except for the ways in which it can serve men.
Yes.
And then even then, the ways that our female experience serves men is procreation mainly, right? And even that process of reproduction has become so domesticated, so locked down, so oppressed that women don't even realize. The modern woman is terrified of birth, terrified of her cycles, ignorant of her cycles, doesn't understand why she feels the way that she does, doesn't understand the messages that her body's giving her, sees her body as just an inconvenience, because that's honestly how patriarchy sees the female body. That is just a big inconvenience, and it's a deterrent to the endless progress that colonial capitalist systems would rather us all live under, right?
Yes.
And so that's what I mean when I say that the female experience it directly confronts all oppressive systems, because the female experience is so deeply rooted in life itself. It is life itself, that if you were to honor it, like, all world suffering would end. The hatred of women is at the core of all of the oppression. It is the universal disease, the universal curse. All cultures subscribe or perpetuate the hatred of women on some level. And if you heal it, if you cure it, all suffering and all oppression has to stop. If we lived in a matriarchal culture that centers children, centers life, centers mothers, centers the family, you can't really justify the oppression that we call everyday modern life. You can't justify war. You can't justify classism when you are rooted and centered in this nucleus that is the mother baby dyad.
Yes.
And so much of my work is oriented around birth. I'm a doula as well, and I'm just so extremely passionate about helping women deprogram from the fear, this terror that we feel about our capacity to create life, because it is our power. It really is. And I know a lot of women get triggered when they hear, how giving birth and creating life is woman's power, but it really is. And it's not just babies. Of course, we create in all different types of ways. But quite literally, like, we owe our entire life, all culture, all civilization comes from the pelvis of a woman, and we owe our existence to the female body. And we need to learn about it. We need to own our cycles, own our body, own our fertility, stop outsourcing to big pharma, to birth control, to male-dominated obstetrics, which really has no consideration for how birth actually functions. There's so much I could pick apart about our modern birth system that just it completely is the antithesis to how birth needs to work. So there's that, and I guess I'll
there's that one small thing. I love that.
Yeah, so there's that. So that could be its own TED Talk on its own. But then, So ways that we can reconnect. So living cyclically,
Mm.
connecting to the earth, getting in the sunshine, getting in the moonlight, like literally putting your vagina in the moonlight, in the sunlight. That's
Yes.
going to help your body start to regulate with the rhythms of the earth, with all of nature. And even deeper than that, if you start giving your blood, your urine, your body, your hair, your tears, anything that has your DNA to the land that you live on and that you walk upon, you're going to start building, reinforcing and strengthening the connection you have to the place that you live on.
Mm.
Blood, the menstrual blood, is full of stem cells, minerals, iron, all the life-giving nutrients that are required to create a baby. And it feeds the soil, it feeds your plants. I've seen the difference between a tree that was given blood or given a placenta and a tree that wasn't. And they just grew totally
Thrive.
differently.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
so much bioavailable nutrients in menstrual blood, in women's blood, and that is not a coincidence. There's a
Mhm.
reason for that. And we
Yes.
are supposed to be giving our blood to the earth so that she can then feed us even more nourishing foods, even more nourishing, ingredients from the land. And then we continue that cycle by giving our blood to the land. And it's a co-regulation that we're doing. It's a communication between our lineage, our bodies, and the earth body.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
And the nexus, the matrix between the earth and humanity is the womb. The womb is the portal, is the doorway, is the gateway through which ancestors recycle and come back into this form, into life. And we come from the womb of a woman, but then we return to the womb of the great mother goddess. And in the earth, we are decomposed and we are returned. All of our ancestors eventually become the minerals, become the bones, become the stone, become the soil from which our food grows. We eat it. We go back to the earth. It's this beautiful, endless dance of return, of life and death, of recycling, of composting. And we are just all subject to the great menstrual cycle that is Mother Nature.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
This is the sacred order.
It's also really it helps to also, I find, for me, with intuition activation, offering my blood to the earth. Like I find I've always had a natural connection to the earth, but I find that I receive a different kind of intelligence, like a different form of communication, a different way of being held, I guess would be like maybe the right word. And I have also seen myself with some of my plants, the difference in some that, because I have, experimented, and seeing the difference is crazy. It's so crazy. So I love that you've been hitting so many awesome key points. Like, that's so good. So I want to go in a little bit to like the way you serve community with some of your one-on-one sessions. I know you do gatherings and things like that, but I really want to talk about your one-on-one sessions, specifically the ancestral womb sessions, because I'm very curious about this. So first, maybe let's talk a little bit, you kind of touched on it, but just like womb healing, how we can do it and why it's important to connect to our sacred temple. And then I'm curious also to get into about your sessions too.
Beautiful. Yeah. So the why, I would say that when women are deeply rooted in our bodies, in our cycles, in our female physiology, not only are we difficult to control, but we become living bridges between heaven and earth. Yes. We become a vessel through which nature may speak through us. And we can then open portals, we can open doorways, not just babies and birth, but songs and art and music and all the different ways that we create beauty in this world and we create medicine. And when we are rooted in our bodies, when we are connected, then we don't have to outsource anymore. There's a homecoming when we come back to the body. And I really, truly believe that so much of the dis-ease and disharmony in modern life and our societies is because we think that life comes from the head, from the ego, but it doesn't. And so much of the mythologies that perpetuate these oppressive systems are rooted in this notion that life comes from the mind of man rather than the womb of woman. So we need to make a deep, long pilgrimage down from the head, back to the womb, back to the heart, back to the body, right? In order to then hear the land and hear the ancestors. So that's really where my work comes into play. So many of our pathologies, our dis-ease, our our struggles, maybe with our womb, with our cycles. I can relate. I used to have really, really, really bad cycles before giving birth.
Mm-hmm.
So much of it was inherited.
Yes.
And there's this intergenerational healing that happens when you start to listen into your womb and you start to heal, because the womb, like I said, is the seat of the ancestors. It's where ancestors return and recycle and then are reborn. All of the blood and stories and legends and memory of everyone before us lives in our blood, lives in the blood of the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And then we grow, we gestate in the oceanic wombs of our mothers. And while we do so, we are not only vibrating to the pulse of her heartbeat, but we are bathed. Every cell of our being is bathed in her consciousness and of that before her, of her foremothers. So there's this really, really strong red thread that binds us not only to everyone before us, but to everyone on planet Earth. We are all united by the blood of the womb. We all come from the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go into the womb web, into the womb cave, we're not just, healing ourselves, addressing our traumas, but we are healing and addressing everything before us as well that we've inherited.
Yes.
So there's a lot there, and there's a lot of freedom and liberation that happens when we recognize the patterns and the cycles and we say, I'm going to choose a different cycle. And then we see how that manifests in our physical experience. I truly believe that so much of the disease and pathology that women experience is quite literally just because we live in a culture that doesn't honor the female experience, just like dismisses it, denies it, vilifies it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's talk about Adam and Eve for a second. We got to throw them in here somehow.
Yes.
So the fall of man is blamed on the first mother, on Mother Eve,
Yes.
because of her desire to taste and commune with desire itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a spell that is.
Well,
and
at
how
first, though, it was Lilith.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. But we don't talk about her though, right?
Right.
I mean, I had no idea who the fuck Lilith was, only until the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And she represents the wild feminine force, the feral female that was demonized, sent out to the wastelands. And then Eve, was responsible for why we had to leave the sacred paradise. And what an insidious story that is, and what a spell that casts upon all women everywhere, to believe that our desire is at the fault of why we were cast from the garden, when it was our disconnection from sexual consciousness, from sexual power itself. And the demonization of female sexuality is at the core of that. Anyway, so somehow circle that back to what I was saying before.
This is why I have my notes, because I can go off because I pick up on something.
No, I
and
totally
I'm like,
get it.
I love it.
No, my brain is so mycelial at this point. Yeah. So, I mean, we have to undo these spells that live in our bodies that we've inherited from the women before us. And when we have the courage to face our shadows and feel those feelings and speak the truth for the first time, maybe in our lineage in a very long time, we're setting everyone before us free. For all the women that could not orgasm, that could not feel safe enough to speak their pleasure, that didn't feel safe enough to express their needs in their authentic voice, we now have the chance and the opportunity to do so. And that's a big part of the womb healing journey. But then also there's so much more to it. There's rituals and practices and medicine that can really support us in healing and finding harmony within our system. And, eradicating toxins as much as possible, embracing our natural form, loving every inch of our female bodies has so much to do with the disease or stagnation that we feel. And then I always come back to the plants. So herbal medicine has been such an instrumental part of my reclamation and my healing and my connection to the land. And that's always been a feminine path. The medicine woman, the healer, has always been the one close to the earth, listening to the plants, listening to their medicine, and then sharing it with the people. And that's such a big part of my journey. And and then I follow up our sessions with ritual care and resources and all kinds of other little things to really support you in following this journey on your own. Like, I truly believe, one, that we're not broken. There's nothing wrong with us, but that sometimes we need the gaze and the reflection of someone who's clear, so that we can then recognize the ways in which we want to be clear, and just to kind of hold your hand as you empower yourself.
Yes.
Ultimately, like
Yeah.
I'm not, perpetuating this story that I am the healer and you're the receiver. That's not at all what's happening.
No,
So much of the healing is between you and your womb, between you and your ancestors. And all I'm here to do is walk you to the gate so that you can step forth and do the work yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then I'm just curious, how did you get into your work as a doula?
Let's see. So college, I was in massage school. That's something else I'm also very good at. I
Okay.
love massage as well. And I watched a documentary called The Business of Being Born. I highly recommend that documentary. And it really just opened my eyes to the oppression that is modern obstetrics and how really counterintuitive and paradoxical our modern birth system is. And it was like where I even learned the word doula. And then through my partner, I got to meet an actual doula and I got to pick her brain and ask her, like, what's that like? And how did you do it? And then through her, I found the organization that I did my training with, Doulas of North America, way, way back when. I don't exactly recommend Doulas of North America if you want to be a doula, but they are a good, I don't know. They could work for some people.
Yeah.
But there's so many other paths. There's so many other different ways and places to learn about how to serve women in birth. Yeah. And then I had my daughter at home. Our birth story is pretty wild, but we actually ended up asking our midwife to leave the birth. And then I ended up having the free birth that I always wanted. Yeah, that was a whole other story.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So this is part of your work that you offer as well. Yes.
Yeah. I offer the Sovereign Birth Mentorship, which is 6 sessions with me traveling through your pregnancy to really help women empower themselves to believe that they can birth autonomously in their own power and free from fear. That's something I'm incredibly passionate about. And yeah, it feels like goddess and the truth of the goddess just kind of fuels my work in all these different branches.
Yeah.
Like she's the root, and then there's all these branches through which I share.
I'm also curious a little bit about just your pagan ceremonies. Like, you hold those as well?
Yeah, we hold women's circles. My husband was doing men's work for a little while. We're taking a break though from that. Women's circles, and then through the wheel of the year, we host the holy days, the feast days with our community. We don't live in community, but we have a wide community here in Oregon that we're so blessed to share and celebrate with. And this Saturday, we're actually going to be celebrating winter solstice. So I'm really excited. We're going to be taking down the maypole that we danced around in May, and then it's going to become the Yule log. And we're going to burn it all night long. And yeah, that's just one other thing. And then I have so many other kinds of gatherings that I want to hold in the future, but that'll come in time.
Yeah. So just talking about the winter solstice, because when this episode airs will be in the new calendar year. So we're going to be entering into, or when people are receiving this episode, I should say, is our hibernation period, which you and I kind of touched on before, which I'm very much looking forward to. So what advice do you have for women as we enter into this part of our journey?
Hibernation specifically,
the winter souls, like the winter time, like our time for renewal.
Yeah. So just like the menstrual cycle, winter is the time where we come in to gather resources, to integrate, to regenerate ourselves. Because summer and spring and ovulation takes a lot of energy to be so outward and so creative, and all these outward ways. We have to come back in.
Yes.
We have to regenerate. We have to go back into the shadows, into the soil, into the roots, to gather up the nourishment and the wisdom so that we can then bloom again. And our society lives in this upside down world where somehow we don't acknowledge the seasons, we don't acknowledge the menstrual cycle, we don't acknowledge the necessity to go into the darkness. In fact, darkness is vilified. Darkness is, we avoid the darkness, we do not go in there. And that's a rather recent way of living. I think traditional cultures throughout time didn't live like this.
No.
So doesn't feel normal or natural to keep working, to keep hustling, to keep grinding, when our bodies and the land is saying, come in, child, come in, gather in, just rest. So it's really just simplifying. It's cutting out anything that feels distracting or too busy or too loud as much as you can. Obviously, we're all in our own different journeys and different places with what we can compromise with it or not. But for me, it looks like sitting by the fire, just being slow, um, being on my phone a lot less, not working, maybe not answering the emails right away, maybe not going out to as many social gatherings, but maybe inviting a few people to come gather around the fire with us to share song, to share medicine. And then honestly, like a lot of just cozy, intentional coziness. I don't know if you've heard about hygge, but it's a Danish Scandinavian custom of like intentional coziness.
Okay.
Their winters are incredibly brutal, and it'll be dark for days and days on end. So they really indulge and invest a lot into being inside and enjoying being inside. So that means a lot of candles, that means a lot of chocolate, that means a lot of really savory, delicious foods. And the Danish culture, they're said to be the happiest people on planet Earth, but they have shorter lifespans, to be true, but they are so happy. And I think it has a lot to do with this, like embracing the darkness and embracing that return to the inside. And story medicine is such a beautiful thing at this time of year. If you have a good podcast or a good book that you want to dive into, just let yourself do that. And then, this has been a really hard year for a lot of us. This has been a heartbreaking, brutal year for a lot of us. So much of, I think, what we need to do as a collective is to just come in and sit with all of those feelings, and without the feeling of like I need to do anything about it, and to just really get comfortable in the uncomfortable, to embrace the liminal space that winter really does offer to us, and trusting that like this is a mysterious dark time. I'm kind of fumbling through the shadows. I don't really quite know where the path is, but if I sit here long enough, the light will return and a path will be made clear for me. And that's why it's so important to sit by the fire in the wintertime. And, for those of us in the north, maybe that feels natural to, make a fire to be warm. However, my relatives in Southern California, it's hot. It's still summer there. We all winter in different ways depending on where we're living. But like lots of the inquiry, the self-reflection, the shadow work, and then just a lot of sitting. Just like, can we just sit and just be with whatever it is that's alive in us right now?
So beautifully said. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've been like watching the time. I'm like, no, I have more questions, but
I know.
I'll have to maybe have you back on or do an Instagram live or something, because I just have appreciated this chat. Like, it's just so nice to find your people, you know what I mean? Even if it is in virtual spaces, and to keep building community and everything. So thank you so much for sitting with me on this Sunday and just sharing your knowledge and sharing your essence and your light. It's so beautiful. I'm very excited to share this episode. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And blessings to everyone listening, and to this beautiful portal space that you're opening and offering so much medicine through. It feels like such an honor to be here. So thank you.
Thank you.